think it's a fascinating study to think from the beginning of time up until about 5 years ago. The whole idea of single family purposely built for rent projects really didn't exist. And think back to 08, 09, 2010, just so many homes gone into foreclosure. I think at one point, 1 out of 4 homes in Phoenix Metro were in some level of distress. Okay. And so back in 2009, we set up our first retail fund with individual investors to start buying single family foreclosures. Fast forward, we raised, a couple $100 million and owned a couple thousand single family foreclosures. We were buying homes that were selling at the peak at $300,000 to $400,000, and we were picking them up for 50, 60, 70 grand. Now, that was always a play on, hey, let's just buy something dirt cheap with no leverage. Let's just hold it and it'll eventually snap back. We're like, well, what do you do with these houses in the interim? Well, we thought, well, let's just rent them out. People need a place to live. So many people lost their homes, and really almost no fault of their own. They had jobs, they had money, they just needed a place to live. So we turned around and basically turned them into single family rentals. And at one point, it depends on how you measure, we were one of the largest landlords in the state of Arizona. And what we noticed was it was a really good, from the revenue side, there's revenues and expense. From the revenue side, it was a really superior revenue stream versus traditional apartments. These people were a little more stable, a little more mature, had higher incomes, they stayed longer, they didn't trash the place. It was because again, these people need a roof over their head. And that's where the idea of single family built for rent came about. Instead of a 5 million person sprawled huge metro area that might take you an hour to get from one end to the other, instead, let's put 200 homes in a 20-acre rectangle walled area, only 3 unit types, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and you're only a 5-minute walk and not an hour drive from one corner, from one house to the other. And so it made it a lot easier to scale the ability to capture that higher quality revenue stream. Probably 6 years into this right now. So we're up to, over 20 built for rent projects, over 5,000 doors. By any measure, it puts us in the top 5 in terms of people out there developing single family built for rent.
To be at 20 communities in just that amount of time is incredible. And that's one of the reasons why we invest with you guys and continue to. So the 2 deals that we are in through the one fund, which was Fort Worth and Colorado Springs.
Project is Golden Triangle. It's in Fort Worth, right on the border between Fort Worth and Keller, right off the 35W. It's just right adjacent to one of the largest hospitals up there and by the highway. So it's just a fantastic site. And so, we broke ground. Byron, I'd say roughly probably 6 months ago, maybe
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means all the site work is going. It's a fairly large site. That we probably have at least another probably 4 to 6 months of site work going on there. So I would expect sometime in late summer, we'll start pouring slabs over there. And then once you start pouring slabs and going vertical, it goes super quick. And then in Cottonwood, we're getting close to having permits there. It's worth the wait, by the way. Colorado's a bit more like California. It could take you a couple years to go ahead and get your permits. It's just that area is booming because Denver has just gotten so expensive. So the rents up there are going to be probably 10 to 15% higher than what we're going to go ahead and achieve down in Texas. And as a refresher, it's on one of the major intersections right on a cloverleaf there. So it's actually the visibility from the cloverleaf from the highway is fantastic. It's a slightly elevated site. So if you had to look between both those sites, actually the Colorado Springs one, which is Cottonwood Creek, is actually I think it's superior to what we have in Fort Worth. So it's going to be worth the wait. We'll go ahead and we're closing one other loan next month. And then we will start the process of soliciting quotes from lenders on that with a look to get started on Cottonwood Creek's construction in the second half of this year. The most important point for an investor to understand is you shouldn't be looking at where the market is right now. You got to look at where it's going to be 3 years from now. So what's going to happen is a lot of these projects that were started in 2021, they're delivering right now. Because of that, rents are actually relatively flat. They're not declining, but they're also not going up much. They're relatively flat. But all that inventory is going to get absorbed by in-migration. Coming to Arizona, coming to Texas, coming to Colorado, moving to Florida. But what's going to happen now is the Fed is essentially fighting inflation now to create future housing inflation 3 years down the road, because there are so few permits right now and so few developers actually getting their construction loans. And so if you want to look at it now, it's actually the best time to be coming in, because 3 years from now, there's going to be a lot less competition, yet you're going to continue to see this in-migration and population growth. So for those that have the fortitude and the ability to put a shovel in the ground now, you're going to be, I believe we're going to be in a very good position, 3 years from now.